So now to show you how I run a trace, I'm going to run this trace here from the 3.3 volt down to these two pins. So to start with, I'm going to hold it where I want it to start, and then I know that I need it to make a 90 degree at the third pin up from this. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So now that I've have that held in position, I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers, find that pin like before, and then go ahead and put a 90 in it. That. And then I need to go right next to those pins, come down to the bottom pin on that row. So again, leaving in enough space for there to be that bend radius. Put it back in place. Another 90. So this is using just stripped wire, but they do make something called bus wire, which is designed specifically for this purpose. I don't have any of that, so I just take some solid core wire and strip it, and that gives me the material I need to make these traces. So now that I have that in place, I can go ahead and take the flush cutters and cut that to length. So with that, I can go ahead and start soldering this together. So one of the things when you're doing this is keeping that solid core wire in a separate place from your solder, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up picking up that solid core wire and trying to solder it, and that does not melt at the temperatures your soldering iron can get to. So it's after a while you'll be able to just feel that that wire is a lot stiffer than your normal wire, or than your solder. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting at one end, and to kind of get the end to lay flat, sometimes it's helpful to take something to push it down with. One of the things you want to make sure you're doing is waiting for that joint to form before you start to push down, unless you have something that's non-thermally conductive. So these pliers are metal, so if I place them there, they're going to act like a heat sink and keep that wire that they're pressing down on pretty cool. And when they're pressing down, if that happens, then they're going to keep that wire cold enough to where the solder is not going to wick in to the joint on that wire. So now that that end is done, it's a lot easier to work with. And now you can just go through and solder down the wire. And here, you know, you can make little tweaks with the pliers to get everything lined up the way you want it. That. Now if you have really long leads or really long traces, One of the things that I like to do is put a little joint in the middle of it to keep it in position on the board. So I think I have one of those coming up in a little bit. So I'll bring you back when we need that done.